Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Lazy Archive. Today we are going to be talking about, how do I put this frankly? Spaghetti! We're talking about spaghetti today. The main reason why, I like spaghetti, I made some recently, I ate it, and I thought, why not talk about one of my favorite meals to make? Where to begin? Let's start when I was a kid. When I was a kid, I ate spaghetti in a very strange way. I would only ever eat plain spaghetti noodles. No sauce, no cheese, no nothing, just plain boiled noodles. And for years, whenever I asked my parent to make this for me, and granted I was like between the ages of like 5 and 10, I would, whenever I asked them to make this meal for me, they would always say, "Really? Are you sure you don't want anything else?" I told them no. I would get the weirdest look, and then they would make for it. And I kept eating plain noodles like a little psychopath for years. Until finally, my parent convinced me to try noodles with sauce after they discovered I liked eating a particular type of hamburger helper meal that was essentially spaghetti with sauce, just in different proportions. And ever since then, it's been a staple of my diet. And let me tell you, as an adult, cooking can be tough, and spaghetti is very, very hard to screw up, and still tastes good, even if it's not fancy. So it has been very helpful in terms of meal prep and just having some nice leftovers after a long day and I don't want to cook. And in this next part of the video, I'm going to just jabber on about how I make spaghetti. I start off with just generic noodles, a can of spaghetti sauce. That is important. For some reason, the cheapest spaghetti sauce that comes in cans always tastes the best, and it's budget friendly. And depending on how meaty I want my sauce, I usually go with 1 to 2 pounds. Actually, probably just about a pound and a half of ground beef. Next thing I do, I always make sure to sprinkle a little bit of salt in my water, because I've learned that plain noodles are plain noodles for a reason, so just adding a little bit of salt to the water adds an additional little bit of savory flavor that I couldn't think of not doing now these days. Ooh, got talking fast for a minute, I lost my breath. Where was I? Yeah. And then I do the thing that apparently really pisses off anybody who is a native Italian or is of direct Italian descent, and I break my noodles. That might be a crime. That might be considered a culinary crime to most, but I prefer my noodles a little shorter. I don't want to end up dripping sauce or starchy water on my face when I'm trying to eat a particularly long noodle. This ain't Lady and the Tramp. I'm good with some short noodles. And then while that's boiling, I typically smash up the meat with my bare hands a lot of the time, because I like how easy it cooks after it's been shredded to pieces. And then with a combination of Tony's seasonal salt, and then white and black pepper, I get that nice and brown, and then I pour in the spaghetti sauce, making sure to pour a little bit of water back into the can, rinsing it and pouring it into the pan cooking the beef, just to make sure I get as much sauce as I possibly can. Once again, saving money and getting the most bang for your buck. And then once everything is complete, I add a pinch of sugar to the sauce and give that a quick stir. And the one thing that makes my spaghetti sauce how do I want to phrase that without coming off as arrogant? The thing I love to do with my spaghetti sauce is pour in a ton of, what's the word? Not shredded. Grated Parmesan, and mix that into the sauce. as it cools so it melts and combines nicely. And sometimes I even add mozzarella cheese, but that's only when I have the cheese if I'm making something like lasagna or other dishes that need shredded mozzarella. I also stir that in, but I always try to make sure I rinse the spoon afterward because melted mozzarella has a habit of clinging to everything that gets mixed into it. And then once I combine the noodles and the sauce, I end up with a delicious meal. In fact, a long time ago, I used to mix in fresh rosemary, basil, and mint for an extra bit of flavor. Unfortunately, my spice plants is my spice plants died during a particularly harsh winter down here in the south. And after it happened a couple times, I just got tired of replacing the plants and just decided not to bother with mixing in freshly grown spices. Thankfully, I don't lose out on too much flavor, but sometimes I do miss just cutting up those freshly plucked leaves. It's a nice little touch. And let me tell you, as much as I love spaghetti, after eating it one or two more times, I get sick of it and don't make it again for another month. Yeah, spaghetti. It's like those things that taste best when it's hot and fresh and just doesn't live up to expectations after it's been cooled and reheated once or twice. So I end up getting burnt out on it, and like I said, I don't eat it for another month. And that's kind of the cycle with me. I get in the mood for spaghetti, I make it, I eat it a couple times, I get burnt out. But otherwise, I'd say it's just a classic of... Lost my train of thought again. It's a classic dish that anybody can love. Though I have heard of some people that, for some reason, just do not like it. And I'm like, what? You're crazy. How can you not like spaghetti? And then I get over it. Well, anywho, I've said my piece on the matter. I love spaghetti, and you should go make and eat some. Yeah, that's it. And as always, like, comment, subscribe. And if you like spaghetti, what was I saying? Oh man, I've got the attention span of a goldfish, I swear. Anywho, if you like spaghetti, or a particular kind of spaghetti, or a particular kind of sauce, or a particular kind of noodles, hell, if you like any kind of blah 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 blah. Oh, man, I cannot keep on track tonight. I guess that's what happens when you record after midnight. What I was trying to say was, if you have a favorite kind of pasta dish, write it down in the comments. I'm curious to know. Anywho, thank you ever so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.